What I hear from many HI directors and executives today is we want to unlock the next level of potential and grow as an organization, not by doing more, not by pushing harder, but by making better choices in how we lead, communicate, and collaborate. I'm Lizzie Claesson, high performance coach. For the last 25 years, I've had the privilege to work with leaders at Rituals, Volvo, Lego, among many others. I'm also the author of From Suffering to Surfing and Performance Alchemy. Both hit number one on Amazon. I work with a team of amazing individuals at Brighter Leaders. You can learn more about our work at brighterleaders.com. Studies from firms like McKinsey consistently show that around two-thirds of transformation efforts fail, not because the strategy is wrong. They fail because leadership capacity doesn't keep up with the level of change. And when that gap appears, it doesn't show up in a report first. It shows up in behavior. Execution slows down, decisions get pushed up, people start second guessing. Meetings multiply, but clarity doesn't. You can feel it before you can measure it. And here's a real challenge. Most organizations respond to complexity by adding more structure, more processes, more reporting, more alignment meetings, but complexity doesn't need more volume. It needs better leadership. Let me ask you a simple question. Where in your organization today is complexity creating hesitation instead of movement? Because that's where leadership capacity is currently being tested. When pressure increases, leaders typically fall into one of these three patterns. The pattern of control. They step in more, make more decisions themselves, tighten oversight. Short term, it feels efficient. Long term, it creates dependency. The organization slows down because everything flows through a few individuals. Secondly, the pattern of avoidance. Leaders delay decisions, keep things open, wait for more data. It sounds reasonable, but in transformation, delay is rarely neutral. It creates uncertainty, and uncertainty increases resistance. Thirdly, the pattern of overreactivity. More meetings, more communication, more initiatives. It looks like progress, but without clarity, activity becomes noise and people disengage, not because they don't care, but because they don't know where to focus. So the question is not how do we manage complexity? The question is how do we lead in a way that creates clarity inside complexity? There are three shifts I see in organizations that sustain execution speed, even under pressure. The first shift is from answers to direction. Leaders often feel they need to have the answers, but in complex environments, clarity doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from providing direction. What matters now? What does success look like in the next 30 days? What are we saying no to? When that is clear, teams move, even if everything isn't fully defined. The second shift is from alignment to ownership. We talk a lot about alignment, but alignment without ownership creates passive agreement. People nod, but they don't act. Ownership is different. Ownership means I know what I'm responsible for and I'm moving without waiting. And that requires leaders to let go of control and create space for decision making at the right level. The third shift is from managing performance to building capacity. Under pressure, most organizations focus on output, KPIs, targets, delivery, but performance is a result. Capacity is the driver. If leaders don't have the capacity to think clearly, communicate clearly, and stay grounded under pressure, performance will fluctuate, no matter how strong the strategy is. Let me make this concrete. I worked with a leadership team going through a major transformation. Strong strategy, strong people, but execution was slowing down. When we looked closer, the issue wasn't competence, it was overload. Leaders were involved in too many decisions. Teams were unclear on priorities, and small uncertainties were escalating upward, instead of being solved locally. So we didn't change the strategy, we changed how leadership showed up. We clarified decision rights, reduced unnecessary escalation points, and trained leaders to respond differently in moments of pressure. Less reactivity, more clarity, more deliberate communication. Within weeks, decision speed increased, cross team friction decreased, and ownership shifted back into the teams. Same organization, different leadership behavior, different results. So, if you take one thing from this, in times of transformation, your biggest leverage is not your strategy, it's your leadership capacity. Because that determines how fast decisions are made, how clearly people act, and how well the organization holds under pressure. Let me leave you with one question. Where in your leadership today is pressure reducing clarity instead of strengthening it? Because that's the point where performance is currently leaking. And that's also the point where the right shift can unlock immediate impact. If this resonates, you don't need a big program to start. Start by looking at where pressure in your organization is currently reducing clarity and not strengthening it. If you want an external perspective on that, I'm happy to have a short conversation and map it out with you. No pitch, just clarity on where the biggest leverage is. If you found this helpful, kindly like the post, share your reflections in the comments, and share this link with your network. I would love it if you could share with me one thing that you found helpful today.